everyone. Thank you for coming. For those who are wondering what those fabulous dulcet tunes were, they are the Freedom Affair from Kansas City. And that album is called Freedom is Love. All right, Jack, please go ahead and get us started.
Okay, I'll kick us off. So first here, I'd like to say thank you all for joining us. It's been really incredible to see how many folks and there's still some showing up now, have shown up to these meetings and joined us even during COVID, even though we're doing this on Zoom. You know, we have, for those of you that don't know, we have these meetings 4 times a year, once per quarter, to sum up everything that we've been doing so far and everything planned for the journey ahead. So very quick roadmap, what we're doing today. First, Rachel's going to give us some quick updates of what we've been doing across this quarter, what we're doing on the road ahead. Elnora is going to introduce Stories with a Purpose, featuring a story from a community member. And I believe if the schedule works out, we'll see how it turns out because he's busy right now with session, but Senator Haley will be joining us, and then a presentation from Dianne Cleaver. All right, with little further ado, I'll cue up Rachel, who's of course our executive director. I think almost everybody here probably knows Rachel already, the brains of the operation. Here from the beginning, Rachel, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Jack. Well, again, I'd like to say thank you all so much for joining us on this brisk Tuesday evening. I hope you have had a beautiful start to your week and are as excited about this wonderful weather as I am. Jack is right. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things we've been involved in. And first, I'm going to start off by introducing 2 of our newest staff members. I'm going to start with Monica Probst-Medeiros. Monica is our new Economic Development and Sustainability Coordinator. Monica, would you like to say hi, wave to the people?
Hey, everybody. It's nice to meet you.
Wonderful. And then I'd also like to introduce Alyssa Moncoeur. And Alyssa is our Northeast Grocers Project Coordinator.
Hi, everybody. Dang, there's a lot of people on here. That's awesome. Nice to see everybody.
Fabulous. And then Jack already introduced himself. We also have Brenda Brinkhouse-Hatch, who is our Green Team Coordinator. For those of you who don't know, Brenda, say hi and wave.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see all your faces.
Great. And then the only other person missing at this point would be Brendan, but he did let me know he was going to be running a little bit late as he is wrapping up his Learn to Earn class, one of our flagship programs with Groundwork Energy. So we are so grateful to have Alyssa and Monica on board and join our staff. They joined us in January and have just hit the ground running with their various projects. I'll give a shout out right now that Monica has a disaster preparedness training that is ready to go for anybody who is interested in climate risks specific to Wyandotte County. We do offer these trainings free of charge, and anyone who receives our training gets an emergency disaster kit backpack, which includes everything that the American Red Cross says you need in an emergency. It's for 2 people for 72 hours. So Monica, if you want to throw your email in the chat there. I'll also give a shout out that Monica is going to be giving a land acquisition and development 101 training on April 10th as well, which will also be open to the public. And I will ask her to put that information in there. And then Alyssa is coordinating a food drive. I believe the date of that is April 24th. It's going to be around our Northeast Grocers site at 1726 Quindaro. And Alyssa, if you have any information, feel free to put that in the chat along with your email. All right, thank you so much. I just want to toss out some other quick events that we have coming up. So in honor of Earth Day, Groundwork Energy is going to be doing a tree planting event at everyone's favorite park, Jersey Creek. We're going to be planting about 20 trees right where the spray park and community garden is. Our green team is going to lead that effort, and the effort is co-hosted by our Unified Government Parks and Rec Department, as well as Bridging the Gap. We are looking for volunteers or people to just come out and say hi. We will be providing PPE and following all social distance protocols. But if you want to be part of the effort to increase our tree canopy here in KCK, please do join us on April 22nd from 3 to 6. And Brenda, if you want to put the flyer for that event in the chat, that would be awesome. I also want to share, some of you may be familiar with our neighborhood walk audit Come Walk With Us program. Those are neighborhood audits that we've done over the past several years, working with neighbors to survey the conditions of their streets, curbs, sidewalks, and lighting. We have done audits in the OCP neighborhood, Douglas Sumner, Struggles Hill, Turtle Roots neighborhood, as well as the Parkwood Colony neighborhood. And we are preparing for our 6th walk audit in the West Height neighborhood and working with that neighborhood association. That audit is scheduled for May 8th from 10 to noon. We're going to meet at the West Heights Shelter House, and we are also looking for volunteers to help with that effort. It really is not complicated at all. So if you'd like more information, please follow up with any one of the people who just put their information in the chat, and they will work to get that information to you. Lastly, I would like to tell you a little bit about the progress that we've been making on the Northeast Area Master Plan. As you're aware, the Northeast, or as you may aware, the Northeast Groceries Project is one of the priority projects out of the Northeast Area Master Plan. And again, that's Alyssa's project. There was also a project called a Historical Trail and Marker Project. And so we at Groundwork Energy have been working for almost a year to get that off the ground. In June of 2020, we applied in partnership with the Unified Government to Mid-America Regional Council's Planning Sustainable Places grant to get grant dollars to go through a planning process for a Northeast KCK Heritage Trail. That Northeast KCK Heritage Trail is going to stretch from historic Calm Point to the Quindaro town site, bridging the northeast area of Wyandotte County from east to west. It will obviously feature Jersey Creek as a huge highlight in that trail, and it will also include green infrastructure installations that'll accentuate that trail. So in June, we applied for those dollars and we received $138,000 to hire a consultant to conduct a planning process. We crafted an RFP with Mark and the Unified Government that was put out in November or December of 2020. We received 4 different responses to that RFP and went through a selection process. And we did choose a planning firm. We chose Collabo out of Chicago. The lead principal, Collabo, is Adam Rosa, who was the lead on the Northeast Area Master Plan when he was working with Camiros. We're very excited about that process, and we anticipate it will be kicking off in April. We're going to be doing a lot of community outreach and engagement around that, so I hope all of you will consider participating in that planning process as we create this heritage trail going forward. And that's all I really had, Jack. Does anybody have any questions about any of the things that I just mentioned? Please feel free to raise your hand, either using the raise hand icon or just, if I see it, just go on and raise it up. Okay, not seeing any. I will turn it back over to Jack. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much, Rachel. Well, the next thing we had planned on our agenda is Stories with a Purpose. And I see that Senator Haley has not joined us quite yet. And I guess let me ask a question to Ms. Elnora. I mean, would you like to provide a little bit of introduction of Stories with a Purpose in that segment, or do you think we should move directly on to Ms. Dianne Cleaver and then loop back to that?
Well, thank you very much, Jack, and welcome everyone. It's good to see everyone, and I'm so glad that you're attending our first quarter meeting. Senator Haley was very interested in this to be our first featured person to recant the Stories with a Purpose. But he was also letting me know that the legislature is in a double downs effort to go over bills and vote on action items and so forth here, for their April agenda. So to postpone it may not even be beneficial. If he's not on, I'll just take this opportunity to explain what this new entry is on our quarterly meeting. And if he should happen, he knows it starts at 5:45. If he should happen to be able to come on, we could just let him on. So I think I'll just go on with that. Stories with a Purpose is a concept that I've been talking about for quite a while. And it is a concept that says that storytelling, we want to use storytelling to convey that picture of 1,000 words about how people, regardless to their rank and position or color or kind, insert the virtue of humanity in their everyday dealings. It's very easy because we're not always operating from the same point of view. It's very easy to have differences and share differences. whether it's with pockets of people or people that we have relationships or whatever. But it's my big observation that shared humanity takes a larger effort to be able to touch and see and understand the person with whom we're talking, or the person with whom we may either agree or disagree. So these stories with a purpose would be the first effort to invite people who have a particular something that they want to say about an example, a person, as an example that we can use, and maybe somehow that will help us all grow in that area of humanity. So I want to invite everyone who's on the call and those people who may not be on the call, but with whom you may speak, to submit that you would want to submit your name and say, I've got stories with the person. I've got someone I want to profile, someone who exemplifies that virtue of humanity. I would like for that person, or I would like to share that at the next quarterly meeting. So that's all I have to say. And feel free to, I would say it's okay to contact one of the people who puts their information there in the chat, and we'll get started with it. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you will too. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much, Elnora. Okay, well, I guess that brings us right along to our main event for tonight. So tonight, and I'll make a very brief introduction here. Tonight, we are joined, very excited, by Dianne Cleaver. You know, and I'll just give you the cliff notes. I think a lot of you already know Dianne Cleaver, but, you know, she's a civic leader and community activist with 40 years of experience in health, human services, and education. She has a bachelor's in sociology and a master's of arts in social psychology from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Currently, she's the president and CEO of the Urban Neighborhood Initiative, one of the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce's Big Five ideas, help to revitalize neighborhoods in the urban core. She's also on the board of the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, a trustee for the University of Missouri at Kansas City, and on the advisory board of the Women's Foundation of Greater Kansas City. And of course, she's also married to Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, and they are proud parents of 4 young adults and grandparents of 5 wonderful children. So without much further ado, I'll cue up the PowerPoint here and give it over to Dianne Cleaver.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you so much for inviting me. I had a really nice conversation with Rachel and some of your other staff, and I learned a lot based on what you're doing, and you're doing some really exciting things. So I think we can borrow some of your work and ideas for our work. So it's really good to talk and collaborate. And then I have to mention that Monica Madero's Props is currently an intern with you and I, though she's more like a staff person, and will be with us a little while longer, but she's done a great job in the Wendell Phillips neighborhood, where she's been working with us on trying to implement some things from the master planning we did for that neighborhood. So hi, Monica. I was asked to say a little bit about myself, so I will do that before I get into the U&I presentation, really about how I got into this work or something along those lines. But, you know, I will say I have always been in human services. I think it's all really I ever wanted to do. And I've always worked with populations that had one kind of a challenge or another throughout my entire career. And it really goes back to high school, my volunteer work. So not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to do that in one way or another. And I spent the biggest chunk of my rather long career now, as I get older, in working in mental health. I was mental health director at Swope Health Center for 18 and a half years, and then I went back and did another stint as an interim for about 1.5 years, so a total of 20 years. And there, you know, we work at Swope Health Services, people regardless of ability to pay, and with the state contract, work with a lot of people with serious mental illness. And I really love that work. I still love mental health. But then I worked for Truman Health for a while, our safety net hospital, as their director of community services, and really as their kind of government affairs person. together. And then I worked for the Kansas City Public Schools, first as a special assistant to the superintendent. With that time was Bernard Taylor. And then later when he restructured as one of the directors in his department. And then I worked as an independent consultant with a firm that was working on high school restructuring, urban core high schools. And mostly I worked with the high school in Milwaukee. And then I came into this job. I was actually on the task force that led to the formation of this as an organization. And after our year of planning and we got ready to bring on the first staff, people knew I was just working for myself, working independently, and asked if I'd be interested in stepping in the CEO role. And I was, and I, very interested. So kind of worked with the board to build this organization from scratch. So that's a little bit about my background and career. And now to the Urban Neighborhood Initiative, and hopefully I'll touch on some of the issues that you're interested in the course of telling you about our organization, and then happy to hear from you or answer questions. Looking at my clock to see that I'm timely. So we are the Urban Neighborhood Initiative, and this next slide will tell you a little bit more about our formation. We were actually incorporated in 2011, as was mentioned in the introduction. Our Chamber of Commerce came up with the idea, let's do 5 big ideas we can get behind long term. And at the same time, the United Way was kind of landed on really wanting to have some major impact in our urban core areas. Those 2 efforts came together and we were formed. We did a year of planning with the neighborhoods, just listening to try to understand the needs that they described. So our organization, we partner with neighborhoods to revitalize the target area. And this next slide will give you an idea of what the area is. It's from Truman Road to 52nd Street and Troost, which is our city's historic racial dividing line. Troost to Prospect forms a rectangle and includes 10 neighborhoods, all of 9 neighborhoods and part of the 10th. And those neighborhoods are our partners. They have been from the beginning, and we continue to work in partnership with them. So what do we do? Next slide, please. Really, well, this is really a little bit about the area that we target. And this is, I think the latest update we had was 2017 census data. So we'll look to see what the 2020 census shows. But 37% of the residents are at the poverty level, and another 28% are between 100 and 200% of poverty. So to a great extent, it's a low income neighborhood, and a number of the people have limited education. At the same time, the neighborhoods have many, many positives. They have great people living there. They have a rich history, and many parts of it are beautiful. Though parts are blighted, there are other parts that are quite attractive. So there are, of course, wonderful things in our neighborhoods. And this next slide is our mission statement. And it is to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty and historic racial inequities that have been caused by decades of neglect and systemic racism by building healthy neighborhoods that enable all residents to thrive. So our focus is on building healthy neighborhoods. We are a place-based initiative that is founded kind of in the research of how determinative place can be. Or you probably have heard zip code as, destiny. It's not exactly destiny, but it tremendously impacts, the rest of your life, everything from, childbirth rates to lifespan. So we're trying to build healthy places. And we do that in partnership with neighborhood residents and through a lot of collaborative relationships, business, industry, government, and community organizations. So the next slide, please. That was our mission. So our goals, if I kind of break it down into 2 simple components, It's to help build a healthy physical environment with quality affordable housing, and we really have a lot of focus now on quality affordable housing, blight and elimination, and policy advocacy. We need some policy changes if we're going to have affordable housing and have other things that are healthy for our neighborhoods. And then the second goal, overarching goal on the next slide, is a healthy social environment. And that is through resident engagement and empowerment. And that's not really the right word, because the neighborhoods already have power. It's helping to reveal the power that residents have, assisting them in identifying the assets in their neighborhood, both the physical assets and the people in their neighborhood. And we're trying to work from an asset-based community development approach, which focuses on assets rather than needs. And then trying to promote positive social connections among residents so they can achieve their shared goals, with our support or times on their own. And so our major initiatives, I will just touch on now. One is called Building Better Blocks, or B Blocks. There we work with neighborhood residents to, we did work to identify focus blocks, and we continue to do that. Currently, we're working on blocks in 4 of our 10 neighborhoods. Eventually, we will get to all of our neighborhoods. And we work with a neighborhood organizer and a block connector. So in each of the areas, the block connector is a neighborhood resident. Ideally, they'd be a resident on that block, but we don't always find one, but someone in the neighborhood to help with the strategies that we are working on within that. And that initiative you'll see on the next slide. Again, we worked in the asset-based community development framework, addressing blight on the block, building social cohesion, and undertaking minor home repairs. So we do have funds to do minor home repairs on the block, and it helps engage people when we're knocking on their door, not just to say, come out, tell us about yourself, meet your neighbors, but, what repairs might your home needs? So we have funds to do that, and we contract with Habitat for Humanity to do that. They're very experienced in it and know how to do it well and get good prices. And so on the next slide, I think we're moving to another major initiative is our policy advocacy work. We currently are focused on affordable housing because there is such a tremendous need for it, and there is very little quality, decent housing, quality, healthy, affordable housing. And we want to ensure mixed income neighborhoods. So yes, market rate housing, but also within that quality housing at different levels of affordability. And that doesn't happen on its own. It takes a lot of work, and it takes policy. So we are the convener of a group called Promoting Equitable Neighborhoods Coalition. And that group brings together a lot of people who kind of work generally on neighborhoods or housing, or just their neighborhood residents, or they're just interested in the issue. And what we've been able to achieve is because we have a coalition and we work together. It's, as I said, neighborhood residents, nonprofits, business, and other organizations, and sometimes government representatives participate with us. And that initiative, I think you'll see on the next slide, we recently played a pivotal role in City Council passage of an affordable housing set aside. And that set aside says that any developer building more than 12 units, multifamily, and getting any kind of city incentives has to make 20% of those units affordable, have to build at the affordable level. And so this was a major accomplishment. Of course, we, had to partner with people on City Council, in this case, the mayor, but we were able to get that passed. Currently, we are working to make sure that that gets implemented as designed, because there's room for slippage. And we're working on establishing, making recommendations to our city about establishment of a housing trust fund, because you really are not going to get a lot of affordable housing or housing at different levels, affordable and moderate housing, without a housing trust fund to help support that. So right now we have kind of subgroups of our Promoting Equitable Neighborhoods group working on how to fund that, what the administrative fund structure should look like, and then what the funding priorities should be. And no, we're not the city, but we, as a coalition, we will make recommendations that have been backed up by research and seeing what other cities have done and what works, and hope to have significant influence there and really get something in place. So another major initiative in the next slide is for the purpose-built communities model. It is a model that's been implemented in about 25 cities across the country. Started in Atlanta, Georgia. They were so successful there that they got funding to help other cities implement the model. And this this gives you a pictorial depiction of what the components are. So this is similarly, it's a place-based initiative to break up concentrations of poverty, not by displacing people, but by bringing in a mix of income and building quality, affordable housing. Education is another key part of a quality neighborhood. So a cradle to college education pipeline, and then community wellness, meaning what else does this particular community need to be healthy? Do they need more green spaces? Do they need a full service grocery store, walking trails? To try to bring those other things in based on the community needs. It does occur within a defined neighborhood. And so we are implementing this in one of our 10 neighborhoods, the Wendell Phillips neighborhood where Monica is working, because our whole area would be larger than the model, a larger area than the model addresses. And the fourth component to this model is a community quarterback that ensures all of this happens. They don't have to do all of this, but their goal is to try to ensure that all of things happen and happen together. So we are working on that in the Wendell Phillips neighborhood, have been going at it for some time. And the next slide, I think will tell a little bit about what we've done. Wendell Phillips, for those of you not familiar, is the 18th and Vine area. It encompasses 18th and Vine. That's the part of town it is. We did open a school, Kansas City Neighborhood Academy, which was a major undertaking. A charter school, but under the chartering entity of Kansas City Public Schools. So it was kind of a partnership with KCPS. Unfortunately, after 3 years operating as a pre-K 4th grade, we had to close the school just because we could not get enough enrollment to sustain the school. I'm sure you know, the main source of funding for school districts is based on attendance, actually daily attendance per pupil per day. That's the funding formula. And because in Kansas City, we have more seats than we have pupils, 21% of our seats overall, that's district schools and charter schools, 21% of the seats are unfilled. So we really need more population in the city, otherwise we're competing for the same children. So because of that, as a new school in a neighborhood with a lot of vacancies, we weren't able to get the enrollment to sustain the school. But we are currently negotiating with the Kansas City Public Schools that owns the building to repurpose the facility. And I think this next slide will show what we're working on as a community serving multi-use facility. And we are negotiating with the district. We responded to a request for interest, and because we pulled people together, we were the only respondent. So since then we have been negotiating And we have parties who want to come into this building, want space. Metropolitan Community College wants to do a community access center. We have an interested preschool provider for the preschool classrooms in the building. And this would allow us to kind of restart the education pipeline. There is a culinary school and eatery designed that wants to a program called the Prospect, wants to come in here. They follow a national model that trains their students to not just be fry cooks, but chefs on healthy food, and the business, and provides wraparound supportive services to help them be successful. And then there's Arts and Education Collaborative that is wants a lot of space in the building to teach arts and also provide a space, a studio space and rent out space. And then the Mid-America Regional Council has a partnership, a landscape management volunteer training, which we're one of the partners, and they mainly want to use some of the land outside the school and office in the school. So that's what we're working on in that facility now, and hope to bring that to fruition in the not too distant future. And in terms of our purpose-built community, which is called the Phillips Collective, we have plans fully developed for our phase 1 housing, which is 39 units, mixed income townhomes, has market rate and units as well as units at different lower levels of income. And we have a development partner, and we're ready to go with that, except for we got to put together the rest of the funding. We're trying to get low-income housing tax credits. We also have control of 90 scattered site parcels in the Wendell Phillips neighborhood. On 24 of those, we're co-developing homes with Habitat for Humanity. And we have been master planning with the Wendell Phillips neighborhood, since they are our purpose-built community neighborhood. And we were able to contract with a planner to lead that. And the neighborhood kind of co-led that, the neighborhood leaders, and they really got a comprehensive plan. It wasn't just about housing. It was about, what kind of social supports do they want in the community? What do they want education to look like, business to look like, their park systems? So it's a pretty comprehensive look. How do they want developers to work with them? All of those things are in the neighborhood. And Monica can probably tell you as much about it as I can. And then I think the next slide is also on the Phillips Collective. We're working on plans to develop mixed income infill housing on our other parcels. We're also working to rehab vacant homes. Our parcels are mostly vacant lots, but we are working on the rehab of one vacant home and want to acquire others to do that. So overall, our goal is to build healthy communities in partnership with our neighborhoods, both in the Phillips Collective and in all of our neighborhoods. And I think that is my last slide. Yeah. And open to questions about, that was kind of a brief overview, questions about that or comments or discussion about any of that.
I'll jump in if that's all right. My name's Adrienne, and I just actually want to first start by saying thank you so much, Dianne, for joining us and sharing about the amazing work that y'all are doing at UNI. I'm serving on the Groundwork Energy Board, and it's just really means a lot to have this sort of collaborative exchange with other organizations that are doing place-based work in the Kansas City area. So thank you so much. My question is, as a place-based organization, are there ways, and if so, how are you navigating the tensions between doing place-based work and seeking out collaboration from displaced peoples? So specifically the groups that come to mind that have been really weighing on my mind lately as we're troubleshooting and the work that we do that would fall into that category of being displaced are Native peoples, the Native tribes that have, inhabited this land in any given neighborhood prior, to what we see there today, as well as people who are currently experiencing homelessness or housing instability. And then the third being incarcerated peoples are all, groups that are displaced and yet still are really important to the history and the present of a given neighborhood. So how are those conversations or strategizing going in your organization?
Well, I would say the work that we are doing on affordable housing and our set aside requires that 10% of the units, 10% of the 20 be at 30% of median family income. So that's at a very low level. So that would help get some of those folks into housing. So we do work just within the area, but a lot of what we do, so the policy work we do has impact throughout the city. And that's really what brings a lot of people to the table, because in policy work, you don't just focus on one area. So I would say any policies that work, like a housing trust fund, one of the things that we are looking at, we're going to recommend on what it should be used for. And there are lots of needs, but kind of prioritize those. So housing for the homeless will be one of those priorities. So that would be a way that would be brought in. To the extent that we can get really affordable housing built, it can help some of the other populations. Of course, our whole country displaced indigenous people, but I'm not, aware of a lot of history in our area. So our neighborhoods are 75% African American. And so our focus is really more on the systemic racism over the years that caused these neighborhoods to get so far behind where other neighborhoods are. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it certainly is a balance. We're all concerned about homeless. They're in our neighborhoods and others. We have people camping out in people's backyard behind the trees because they don't have anywhere else to live.
Thank you. Yeah, that is very helpful.
Are there other questions for Dianne? Valeria, I see you may have. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. I guess I just want to know what are your opinions, your thoughts on, it seems like there's been an increase of homeless people, especially on the Missouri side. I live more on the Missouri side, and when I drive downtown, now we're seeing these camps. We're seeing a lot more of it. I know Mayor Q is talking a little bit about it, but I guess I just kind of want to know what do you think's going on? Where's the policy that's not helping these communities? I guess overall, just what are your thoughts and opinions on that?
Well, I think it's a serious problem that we all need to make a priority. I mean, we're trying to get better housing for people, but what about people that don't have any housing? So, I think in part it's driven by the housing market, which with some of the prices going up, is, sending more people into homelessness. Now, this was pre-pandemic. We could see in our area, and that's one of the reasons that development that traditionally had not gone east of Troost into the historically, racial African-American area is starting to come into that area because they can see they can get, land more affordably. And then of course it's driving up prices and making it hard on the renters, and 50% of the people are renters. So, I mean, I think it's the housing market in general, the prices going up, and I guess it waxes and wanes, but it generally goes up and not down. And of course, the other thing is the pandemic and, people losing jobs, losing part of their job, getting laid off, getting furloughed, and people that, have been working all their lives and managing to put it together, never thought they would be homeless. I mean, you see people in these food lines being interviewed by the news and said, I never thought I'd be in a food line to get food. And so people have lost their jobs that are, are laid off. Maybe they'll, get them back. And most of us are, one paycheck away from being in big trouble. And that's what happened to a lot of these people. Beyond that, I don't know, maybe some people in our homeless coalition that work so hard on this could tell you more about it, but those are, the reasons. But those are my two thoughts. And, the city put up they actually wanted to house the homeless in the school building we're negotiating for because it's currently emptied. And they almost got it done, but it didn't have a sprinkler system because it was built, when that wasn't part of the code. So then the deal kind of fell apart, and they went to the convention center with some rooms. But yeah, it really is at a crisis level. I mean, we're kind of on warm weather, so hopefully people won't freeze to death like they were, but it's still a real crisis.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was down on 30th and Troost just on Sunday, and I was blown away by what has happened there in terms of the retail development in that area. So, and I was encouraged that some of them are Black-owned businesses, so I was encouraged by that.
Well, that's what they say. Well, I have to say hello to Senator Haley. I see he joins. Well, he's still working. He's working.
Yes, he's working. He's
working and maybe listening. But yeah, we have another initiative that kind of brought people that we call it Kansas City Catalytic Urban Redevelopment. And we partner with the city and Mid-America Regional Council, the Urban Land Institute, and LISC. But it's mainly you and I and LISC on the ground. And we brought together stakeholders around that 31st and Troost area. And we did a revitalization scenario planning for that area. And it really was a broad, diverse group, again, that came together. There are a lot of nonprofits in that corridor, like Operation Breakthrough, Reconciliation Services, Journey to New Life, Amethyst Place. And there were a lot of vacant buildings, and a lot of then developers were interested in the area. It's just, what I'm saying, it's been vacant for years, and developers are now coming over to Troost. And so we wanted to get everybody together to agree upon some values and some strategies. And we did that. We, again, were able to get some money to get a consultant group with BNIM Architecture, and developed a revitalization scenario with a list of strategies that the whole group agreed upon. We had lots of focus groups and everything. Now the development is occurring. I mean, it really requires monitoring to see that people abide by. I mean, there's no force behind it. It was just what we all agreed to. And some developers played a lot closer to the vest than the others, and you're not really sure what's going on. But, one thing was, to have a mix of neighborhood serving retail, meaning everything that came in shouldn't be at such a high price point that the people have been living there all these years and now they can't afford it anymore. Well, we really don't know what the retail is going to be until it appears. And as I said, some developers in the area are more open than others. And with others, we really don't know what's going to happen. But it's great to see the development, but we're very, very cautious and wanting to monitor. We're also working in that area to establish a community improvement district along Troost. That would be from 22nd Street up to Cleaver Boulevard. And that was one of the strategies agreed upon. And we've moved down the road on that, and hopefully are about ready to get signatures on our petition.
Fabulous. Well, I'm at it. I'll give a shout out to a tea shop that's there. It's called Soul Centricity on 30th and Troost. It is women Black owned, and also they have a great healing and wellness. And I went there on Monday, and I had the Maya Angelou tea latte, and it was delicious.
Did you said a tea shop?
Mm-hmm.
I should tell my husband. He's a big tea drinker. Of course, he
would love it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Have to go there. Cool.
All right. Other questions?
I'd like to ask you a question if possible, Dianne. So after reviewing the presentation and obviously my experience being able to work underneath you and watch you as you do all these amazing things and teach me many things in the process, I would like if you could share a little bit more about how your experience with community engagement in the UNI neighborhoods has helped to inform some of the vacant to vibrant initiatives that UNI has undertaken, specifically because the UNI neighborhoods, those 10 neighborhoods in that entire, quadrant of the city is very similar to the Northeast area of KCK, both in income and race demographics, but more specifically in terms of some of the development trends. Specifically, UNI has, I know, something like almost 4,000 vacant houses and land parcels that UNI is working to, revitalize in a number of different ways. So I just wanted to know how community engagement has really played a key role in how you decide what, becomes an urban garden, what becomes a new house, what is sold to Habitat for Humanity, how those decisions come to be about and why that's important.
Well, I don't think there are quite that many parcels in the UNI, but vacant, but there are in the urban core, there are that many. So we only own parcels in the Wendell Phillips neighborhood because that was our purpose-built community, but or is our purpose-built. What I will say about community engagement is that it's critical, and we don't make decisions for neighborhoods. So we met with them before we became an organization. We brought the neighborhoods together, and they established some, kind of their big goals and big strategies. And then ever since, for the first 5 years of our existence, we met with them monthly, all the neighborhood representatives, really, whoever wanted to come. And I used to say we meet with them more than our board, because our board met every other month. But then the neighborhoods decided they would go to every other month. But it's always getting their input. We may, you listen all the time, so you know what the needs are. I mean, the reason we established the Vacant to Vibrant initiative, of which the Building Better Blocks are part of, is because you heard the neighborhoods talking about how, what a problem all the vacancies were. Brought crime and blight and dumping and all of that. So that was from listening that we said, okay, is there anything we can do about that? So we're always listening to stay in touch with what their needs and desires are. If we have an idea about a program or a strategy, we take it to them. I mean, if it's for all the neighborhoods, we take all the neighborhoods. If it's something we've done specific projects in one neighborhood, we take it to them to sound like something you'd be interested in. And if it's a yes, we go. If a developer comes in or any project, and they might come to us for support, we say, what does the neighborhood say? What does the neighborhood that you're in say? Well, we haven't talked to them yet, or we're trying to get their support. Okay, well, it's like, you're not going to get our support without their support. So it's really it's their neighborhood. I mean, I don't live there. It's their neighborhood. They know their needs. They've been putting in the sweat equity all this time. So those decisions are made like that. I mean, when it comes to, lots and things like that, it's kind of like what's available. We developed this app, which still needs to be field tested, that helps you determine the best use of a lot, or really what, like, is it stormwater runoff place, so not good for that, or just at a broad level. So factors like that come into play, or the neighborhood will say, well, that's a corner lot, we really want X, Y, and Z. So it's just really a multiplicity of factors, Monica, but it depends on what we're doing, what neighborhood we're working with, and listening to the input, and talking with them about our ideas and our thoughts.
Thank you. I have a couple of people in the queue. First, I have Beto and Elizabeth. Then we will get a question that's in the chat from Virginia Sewing, and then we'll go to Roy Robinson. So Beto, Elizabeth?
Yeah, this is Beto. Yeah, hi. So I have a question. I recently learned that in Kansas City, the city manager said that there's over 100 plus homes that are available that are abandoned, right? That can be transformed into homes for homeless, to transform them into dwellings, right? Livable dwellings. However, they also have a process that they're going through an RFP process where an organization can submit for $1 and buy this property. I just want to know if any of these conversations are happening with your team, and also because the accountability and making sure that others don't take advantage of that opportunity that are not necessarily a nonprofit organization or someone saying, hey, well, I'm really low on, I'm homeless, but they really are not, and making sure there's that accountability as well. And then the other thing is, when we think about homelessness and we say we are able to put them in a home, and if we put them in a home, we also want to make sure that they're in a safe neighborhood, right? And to me, that's always my first thought is, you know, we want to make sure that they're also put in a safe neighborhood, not in a neighborhood that there's high crime, because then we are solving one thing, but it might not be a long-term right because of the neighborhood. So just my thoughts and kind of a question on that. And I know the RFPs are through the land bank of Kansas City. So.
Yes, and I'll see if I can get close to answering your question. This is the land bank's second round of dollar homes since I've been in this job. And I haven't been as close this second round, but you know, the land bank has criteria for any of their homes. And, you know, you have to, you know, prove certain things, but among them, you have to have a plan for, you know, rehabbing the house and show that you have a plan to fund how you're going to rehab the house. What we found out from previous rounds, and we're rehabbing now a home, it wasn't a dollar home, but that was a vacant home from the land bank. They need a lot of work. I mean, people hear, for the most part, you know, people hear dollar home and they think great deal. I mean, some of these people need, homes need $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 worth of work or more. They've been sitting vacant for a long time and so on. So I think the city land bank is implementing some of their usual procedures for people buying it. They do want to encourage people to get them. They want to make sure they have the wherewithal to fix them up. So it's not, so if you really are, you know, if you were homeless, for example, you'd probably have a hard time demonstrating that you could come up with the funds to fix the home. Hopefully there would be a nonprofit that would fix up the home and try to keep it at an affordable rate so that a low-income person could go into it. So I can't tell you specifically everything that they're looking at, but I just know their usual processes are you do have to demonstrate some things in order to get the home. To your second point about safe neighborhoods, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It's kind of like these things go hand in hand. You know, again, one of the reasons that we started our Vacant to Vibrant initiative, started focus on vacant properties, was because not just the neighborhoods identified it as a major issue, so did the police department. I remember not long after I came into this job having a conversation with a police officer and just trying to learn, you know, who worked in the area. And I asked him, you know, what do you think are the two, you know, biggest contributors to crime or most important things we could do? I was very surprised when he said, do something with all these vacancies. That was one of his two. The other was programs for you. So, you know, it's circular, you know, one thing helps another. Fixing up homes to look decent, I mean, it's the broken window theory, does help with crime. Filling in all these vacancies does help with crime. You know, there's not a vacant lot where somebody behind the bushes can hide and, you know, do whatever they're going to do or jump out and rob somebody. But all these things, we have to work on them together. I mean, we can't, everybody can't do everything, but if different organizations are doing their part, we definitely need to work on crime in our city. But we think that's part of building a healthy neighborhood. Building strong social cohesion among neighborhood residents or where people know each other. That's another really strong crime prevention strategy. I see someone trying to get into your house and I know that I haven't seen them before. I know you, you know. I see a strange, you know, a car down the block and I call the person that lives down the block and say, that car's been sitting there for 2 days. So social cohesion is another crime prevention strategy.
Thank you so much. We have a question that was put in the chat here from Mrs. Virginia Sewing. Is your organization included in the opportunity zones? And if so, do you receive funding from these opportunity zones?
9 of our 10 neighborhoods are in an opportunity zone. One was drawn out, and there is one that where the income levels are a little higher than the others. That's why. though you may know the original rules, and I haven't kept up, if you were adjacent to an opportunity zone, immediately adjacent and use, 90% of the funds, something, you could get in. But we're primarily an opportunity zone. We have explored, when it first came out, our organization with others, with the Chamber and the Kaufman Foundation, spent a lot of time trying to look at the opportunity zone, opportunity. And in all the meetings, we tried to say, how can we not say opportunity 2 or 3 times in one sentence? But we weren't successful in finding a way to do that. But what we were trying to do was say, how do we put guardrails on this? Because someone can come into a neighborhood, take advantage of the tax breaks that go with it, and not do anything to benefit the neighborhood. That was not a requirement of the opportunity zone. Didn't have to be affordable, didn't have to be accessible, didn't have to, include neighborhood residents if it was a business. And so we were trying to put some, as I said, guardrails around what was happening in our community. And the way to do that was just kind of like community pressure, and the foundation saying, we'll be more likely to come alongside your development with funds if you do this. But what I will say is I haven't seen a lot of development, period, from opportunity zone opportunities. I mean, we had a discussion with someone, we thought we would get some housing built. It's really an easier structure for businesses. And we are interested in bringing businesses to our area, but we were more interested in housing, and it's a little more challenging. Like, you have to have rental housing. An investor has to get a return. So you have to have rental housing, and we were interested in ownership, but there are, we talked about rent to own programs where people would gain equity and they eventually could own the project. But I just haven't seen a lot of it come in our area, and you hear that in other places across the country. Some of it is happening, and we may not know who's using opportunity zone, the tax advantages of an opportunity zone, but that's.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take one more question, and this question is from Mr. Roy Robinson.
Thank you. I am truly amazed with all the awesome opportunities you're doing. But my question is, what size is your staff?
We have 4.5 FTEs. That's why coalitions and partnerships are so important. On our minor home repair program, if we were trying to manage that ourselves, we don't have the staff capacity, expertise. So contracting with Habitat to do that, that's their expertise. So, that's an example. And they're another nonprofit. We know they do good work and they, have a good name. So, yeah, I mean, it really is about trying to build coalitions and develop partnerships. Like I mentioned, working with LISC. We've got a green spaces committee, and that over the years has been chaired by the CEO of Heartland Conservation Alliance and someone from Mid-America Regional Council that worked in water quality. They brought the expertise, and they brought a lot of other kind of resources to help us get some things done. So very little staff. We'd love to have more, but like you all, do what you can with what you have.
Thank you.
Small but powerful. Well, I just want to go ahead and say thank you so much, Mrs. Cleaver, for coming and speaking with us and sharing. The chat's been blowing up with appreciation and also some good follow-up. So people want to know more, and that's exactly what we want. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it, happy to share. And as I said, I really have learned from you all. So we need to keep talking, take some ideas here from what you're doing.
Oh, we will definitely keep talking.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to transition to